Today I'll be giving you guys a buyer's guide on the Sony A80K. So without all the BS and wasting your time, I'm just going to dive right on in. So let's talk about the price. Currently it sits at $1399.99. Now that's a solid price, but I do expect it to drop to $1298.99 and even $1100 towards, again, clearance sales and Black Friday. Now, if you're somebody that is buying this television because you're kind of used to Sony's reputation for brilliant picture quality, this is one of the ones that kind of get a little inconsistent. On the one hand, it's super clear, very sharp, and that'll be a wonderful experience. But colors are where things kind of go a little amiss. So if you were expecting like to be dazzled and have your mind blown, like, oh my God, the colors on this thing are next level, you're still going to need to buy something like the Samsung S95B or the Sony A95K, because this OLED is not going to deliver that, and it's very clear it's positioned in such a way to help the A95K and S95B do a whole lot better. Now, of course, it's never Sony's intention to help the competitor, but honestly speaking, this doesn't particularly perform all that well, especially when you get to primary colors like red and purple. Those things are going to look really bad on this display, so just keep that in mind. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that, again, this isn't going to be an excellent champ for motion either. So if you are somebody who watches a lot of fast-paced content like Spider-Man No Way Home, I did a video showing how bad the motion can really be comparatively to something like the LG C1. Now, when we talk about its gains, though, I would say that the clarity advantages and the overall colors outside of, primaries like red and purple are acceptable, and they do look good enough that you will have an enjoyable experience. However, if you are buying this for HDR, and because, they're selling it on a bunch of different things like OLED Contrast Pro, talking about you can get stunning highlights and things like that. The stunning highlights thing almost never happens, so don't expect that. Instead, expect something that's going to be fairly dim most of the time, because that's more realistically what you get, and that's just as honest as anyone can tell you. Now, in terms, again, of features that they're offering, Sony likes to claim that this is, great for PS5, which I don't doubt that people who buy it can have an enjoyable experience on PS5, but it's not great for PS5. So you only have two HDMI 2.1 ports versus the competition, which has four HDMI 2.1 ports. And more damningly, though, the input lag is 17 milliseconds if you do anything 60 FPS, which a lot of the games on PS5 target 60 FPS and many target 30. Only a handful target 120 FPS. And even with that, you have serious graphical compromises that most people don't use the higher frame rate modes because of. With this as the case, your average frame rate is more realistically 17 milliseconds as a norm. Now, if you game in 120 FPS, you can get that down to like a little over 9 milliseconds. But again, Sony's fudging the numbers a little bit. It's not 8 milliseconds like they say it is. You're going to have to curve those expectations a little bit more. Now, again, 17 milliseconds is doable, but with TVs, even budget TVs, doing an average of 14 milliseconds nowadays, that is behind the times a bit. Now, Sony is known for having bad input lag, so I guess you really can't harp on them too much for that if you're a Sony fan, but the rest of us are probably going to look at them a little sideways. Now, again, I'm saying this from a perspective of owning a Sony A8G, a Sony X900E, and a few other Sony products. I love my Sony products, but you have to be realistic when it gets to certain aspects. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So if it comes off a little biased, I apologize. But again, I'm just speaking from experience and very bluntly, because I feel like that's the only way to really be when you talk about products. Just rip the Band-Aid off, right? Now, again, it's not like this is a terrible product and like you shouldn't buy it or anything like that. Like it's just the worst thing out there. The speakers are decent. You can have very rich audio in terms of vocals. I was really impressed by the vocals, in fact. I think in terms of the viewing experience, it's more than adequate, and a lot of people can have a good experience. And if you want a good OLED, not great, not fantastic, not going to break the mold or, blow your mind in any way, but you're just looking for a good OLED that's not going to truly break the bank, then this is a good option. However, if you're looking for that next level upgrade, then go with the Samsung S95B, even over something like the Sony A95K. I've done multiple tests. I can help you however you need, but ultimately, the S95B from Samsung this year is the best TV on the consumer market that has ever existed, period. And I'm still blown away by it. And I think, honestly, with this at basically $1,400 after taxes, and the S95B $1,600 after taxes, It's kind of like a no-brainer for the extra 200. Save yourself the hassle. Get the extra HDMI 2.1 ports that Samsung's offering. Get the solar-powered remote that charges via USB. No more battery costs or expenses for you, right? And again, it's that stunning picture quality with excellent brightness and highlights that really take it to the next level with the quantum dot technology. I really recommend that. But if you, let's say, don't like Samsung, maybe they did you dirty in the past, then maybe look at something like the LG C1, because even that has better highlights and better reds than what this will produce, even though they're both WOLED technology. And even the C2. Now, the reason I don't recommend the C2 over the C1 is just the better TV that makes the most sense if you can still find it. However, the C2 is an awesome runner-up that still has excellent brightness, well beyond what the A80K is capable of. And again, the moral of the story is like, you know, if you're a Sony fan, you're going to buy this TV, great, but there are other options, and hopefully one of those 3 options I just listed off can help you out. Now, if you have additional questions, I do have a Discord forum. You can stop by, and I have various support pages for every single manufacturer, and you can kind of ask whatever you need, or you can stop by Friday's live streams at 7 p.m. and then get a real-time response with interactions and things like that, and just come out to have a good time. Other than that, drop your comments down below, and I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later.